Greetings and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about this Chet Baker Blue Room. The 1979 Vera studio sessions in Holland, 1979. Now, I've said in years past, I'm so old, I've been doing this so long, that I really love Chet Baker's records on steeplechase, which were all, I think, cut in 1979. There's 3 of them, and he plays so beautifully. I think in some ways his playing got better as he got older. Granted, he was kind of moving in slow motion. I imagine if you're a junkie, life moves kind of slowly. I bet it moves like really slowly or like really super fast. But either way, he sounded great on those older sides when he didn't have that long to live, I guess. But this, I think this is an excellent Record Store Day release. If you're a Chet Baker fan, I would go as far to say that this is a must-have. The Vera studio sessions in Holland. This is cut at a studio. I think it's a recording studio. And these records sound fantastic. These sound like they were recorded yesterday. These are not old reels salvaged from somebody's basement for a price. This is just like an unreleased session. And he's in stellar form. If you like Chet Baker. I like his trumpet playing a lot. I'm not a big fan of his vocals. And here, you know, he can go kind of flat sometimes, but that's part of his charm, I guess. And he's still young enough here to look quite handsome, I believe. Technical information. Original recordings produced by Enwood Rutten and Rex Lambert for KRO NCRV. So this was for a radio station. But radio stations in Europe or in the 60s or in the 70s or through time immemorial are different than what we think of as radio stations now. You know, when I was in England back in the 90s and I recorded a lot of people, I was lucky enough to go to the BBC a few times. And this was a massive recording complex. I went to the BBC complex in Maida Vale. It was massive. I interviewed Stereo Spiritualized there. I got to see them perform, and they recorded a show. They were in one room recording. Down the hall, there's a giant opera being recorded. This was a large place. These were large professional studios. They weren't just radio stations. But anyway, tape research, Frank Joachimson. Recordings licensed from KRO, NCRV. Mastering, Mark Brewer. Assisted by Frank Joachimson at live concert recording. LP mastering by Bernie Grumman at Bernie Grumman Mastering, Hollywood, California. I think these are 180 gram. I don't really pay attention to weights and all that stuff. Photo research, Zev Feldman, his partner in crime, Zach Shelby Sizisko. But this is just a fabulous outing. I don't know any of these musicians, but they're excellent. The session recorded April 10th, 1979 at Vera Studio 2, Hilversum, the Netherlands, with Chet Baker, Phil Markowitz on piano. I know that name. I believe he's an American player. Jean-Louis Rassenfosse on bass, Charles Rice on drums. Then the second disc with Baker, Franz Elson on piano, Victor Kaihatu on bass, and Eric Ineke on drums. And these are excellent musicians. Just, I mean, as good as anybody who was playing in the States at the time. This is a very relaxed set, languorous medium tempos, a couple up tempo, but I wouldn't really call them up tempo. Some ballads, Beautiful Black Eyes. Wow, which is a Wayne Shorter tune. I don't know this. Duh. Oh, You Crazy Moon, of course, which I associate with Frank Sinatra. The Best Thing for You by Irving Berlin. Blue Room, Rodgers and Hart. Down by Miles Davis. Then the second disc, Blue Giles by Chet Baker, Nardis by Miles Davis. And then side D, Candy, Luscious Lou, My Ideal, Old Devil Moon, which is a little more up-tempo. But this is exquisite recording quality. Some of the best I've heard from any of these Zev Feldman releases, to tell you the truth. Man, this is just exceptional. And of course, it comes with a great booklet. Dig those crazy shades, man. That must be an overview of the studio. Let me show you some more photos and then we'll, there he is. Hopefully it focused on it. the musicians on the session who were alive do some of the liner notes. And we have liner notes by Zev Feldman, Chet Baker in Holland, 1979, by Jerome de Valk. Finding Chet Baker's Vera Studio 2 recordings, so the story of how they found these tapes. Recollections of the recording session by Edward Rutten, who is one of the musicians. I guess that's the producer, excuse me. He probably worked at the studio at the time. Eric Indekian recording with Baker. A Real Education, Phil Markowitz on playing with Chet Baker. A Master of Melody, Jean-Louis Rassenfoss. Straight from the Heart by Randy Brecker. Pure Beauty, a conversation with Enrico Rava. Wow, now, so this says that Enrico Rava is a big fan of Chet Baker. That's interesting. Reduce Me to Tears, and wrote Enrico Peranunzi, an incredible, great pianist. If you don't know what Enrico Peranunzi's playing, what a wonderful Italian, I believe, pianist. So, yeah, just short, down and dirty, a little guerrilla video here in the guerrilla corner of my apartment. And if you're a Chet Baker fan, this is definitely one to purchase for Record Store Day. I believe there are 3,500 of these pressed. I know Record Store Day records are hard to find in some places. I don't know. I understand. But, you know, if you get a hold of them, I would never buy these to flip. These are collectible, beautiful records. They're limited edition records. I know at Jazz Record Center, where I've worked too many years, we don't keep any of these, even though we do have the Sonny Rollins in the Netherlands, in Holland. I thought that was, I don't know why we have that. That's a tremendous album. But all the Bill Evans are gone. This will be gone probably on that day. Anyway, thanks for watching. More to come. I have more Record Day booty to review, and it will come soon. Okay. Yeah, I've got about 4 more things coming I'll review before Record Store Day. Thanks a lot. Bye.